is Magnus Englund. I'm the chairman of Skandiumin, which is a small chain of Scandinavian design retail stores in London. We started in 1999 and we have 4 stores now. The title of the talk at the fair is Let Me Entertain You, Retail in the 21st Century, which is about the changing role of retail and design retail in particular in a new modern world. I think that fairs have changed in the last 10-15 years. Before, people used to go to fairs and place orders. Hardly anyone places orders at fairs any longer. At least not at trade fairs. Consumer fairs, of course, is different. So it's much more about being inspired than writing orders. And I think that also means that the display at fairs has to change. It's not just about lining up objects, but it's about giving an experience, which is not that different to retail actually, how that is changing. It's very relevant here in London with that, where prices are now getting so high for living that you stay either with your parents up till your mid-20s, or you get together with friends and live together. And I think that also spills out onto the street, where you have people, particularly in East London, where you have more collective eating and going out, where you have, rather than having individual tables in a restaurant, you have long shared tables. And that also affects what sort of furniture you want to buy, what you want to put in your home. I think going east in London and hanging out there and going to pubs or outdoor eating, it's really exciting. And I think London has changed over the last 5 years so much that's really the part that draws me much more now, and I think that's the collectiveness of that part of London is what attracts me. It's a really important question for me as a retailer. Something this is really on my mind, because really, why would anyone walk into a shop today? And Britain has more online sales than any other country in the world now. It's about 15% of all retail, and it just keeps growing, and it's also growing in the rest of the world, but it's growing fastest here, even more than in the States. So before, shops used to be glorified warehouses really. They were just things lined up and you went there because you wanted to fulfill a need, but you don't need to go to a shop for that any longer. You can do that online. So I think shops need to give an experience instead and be a place you want to go to because it's nice, where you want to hang out. And that calls for shops to be quite different, and I think to work harder on what you do. Of course, it's about selling. You need to pay your salaries and rents in the end of the day, but it's much more than just flogging stuff. It has to be an experience. Northern Europe as a whole, I feel, is becoming very chain-dominated. Not just Britain, but the whole of Northern Europe, including the Scandinavian countries and Finland. And again, I think there's a risk there that if every street becomes identical to the other street, and it also becomes identical to shopping malls because you have the same chains, then it's not going to be that exciting to walk down that street any longer. So southern European countries like Italy and Spain and Portugal, where you still have individual retailers and individual shops, I think are better at doing that. Not really because they've planned to do it that way, it's just the way they are. And it's just so much nicer to walk around in southern Europe and find little quirky places, unusual places. Department stores have changed so much over a long period of time. And most department stores today are driven by fashion and makeup, because that's where the highest margin is. While before, a department store was exactly that, a store with departments. You could go in and buy a screwdriver, you could buy a cat, or you could buy a rowing boat or sports equipment or all sorts of things. And you can't do that any longer in department stores. Personally, I don't particularly like shopping in department stores. I find them a bit impersonal, but there are some department stores that do it very well. I think Liberty's in London, for example, is a beautiful place. Selfridges is very fashion driven, but it still puts on a good display. But stores that just have rows and rows of objects without, again, giving experience are losing out. I think that's been a problem for Stockholm in Finland, for example. Stay individual, try to find unusual things, try to do more than just selling, try to give an experience. It could be a coffee shop, it could be a book and magazine corner, it could be an art installation. So you have to work harder, and that's also, speaking to myself, in my business, we also have to work harder than we used to do. Finnish design has a very strong Finnish identity, more so than, say, Swedish design. And I really like that and respect that. On the other hand, that might limit its export success because of this identity. Swedish designers, for example, look a lot to Italian design, so they're more global in the outlook, but it also means that they have less of a distinct identity. I think there's a lack of design companies in Finland. This might sound strange because you have, of course, Iittala and Marimekko and Artek, but it lacks a second layer of smaller design companies, like in Denmark, where there's literally hundreds of small, really well-run competing design companies that use local designers, and some of them use the same local designers, and that spurs them on, that there's so many, there's so much happening on the market. So I think what Finland needs are more design startup companies. I would love to be involved in developing a hotel concept one day. I'm not sure it's ever going to happen, but I would love to do that, to be involved with not just the rooms, but the whole concept of the hotel, what you experience when you walk in, what you see in the corridors, how the breakfast area looks like. That would be really nice and fun to do. My favorite place, without doubt, is sitting back in my lounge chair at home with a glass of wine in one hand and a big cigar in the other hand and a good book in my lap. Well, I'm a little bit lucky because I happen to live in a building which is a Grade 1 listed building from 1934, where a lot of designers have visited, because the flat I live in is the one that the person who commissioned this building lived in for a long time, for 40 years. And I read a lot of the correspondence he had with various designers. He corresponded with Alvarado, with Frank Lloyd Wright. He was a good friend with Walter Gropius, the founder of the Bauhaus. And I even have a photograph of Walter Gropius and his wife, Ise, and Marcel Breuer standing on my balcony. So that's the furniture I have at home. I have Breuer and Gropius and Alta furniture at home. I'm hoping to see new designs, of course, but also new upcoming designers, and hopefully also new suppliers, new contacts. And I hope to see a wide mix, not just furniture, but all sorts of objects, and to be surprised and entertained by it.